Hi, this is John with Sysenge Quick. Today I'm going to show you a few of the fundamentals of Git. So the first thing you'll probably need to know is how to work with a repository that already exists. To do that, you're going to need to clone that repository. So we use the git clone command to do that, and then you have to put in the location of the repository using the transport medium that you want to use. So there's a few options. If it's on the local system, you might use the file transport medium. If it's remote, you might have HTTP or HTTPS. Or if it's another server, it might be SSH. So that's one that I use commonly to transfer things between my Windows and Unix systems. So let's go ahead and use that. So it's going to be sysenge at my Debian machine, and that'll be just whatever the name of your machine is. Then we're going to put a colon, and we're going to say where the Git repository on that system is. And in my case, it's in home sysenge git repo 2. If you put a space, you can put it in a different folder. By default, it will keep the same name as the folder that's at the end here, but if there's a .git extension, it will take that off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and you can see we've git cloned this into the git repo 2. So if I go look in git repo 2, I can see I have a Git repository. And you can see my branch is up to date with origin master. That's because when we first clone a repository, the one we cloned it from becomes the origin. So we are on the master branch. We can make changes in here, and if we want, we can send those changes back to the origin or to someone else. So let's see how we might make a change and send that up to the other repository. So let's just make a change to the test.txt file. And now I'm going to add all the files, and I'm going to commit added changes to test.txt. And now I want to push my changes to the other repo. You can see that by running git status, I am ahead of origin master by one commit. If I want to push that change to other place, I can simply run git push. However, it's saying it's refusing to update a checked out branch. So one of the things that you will run into is that you cannot update a branch that you are currently working on, or you cannot push changes to a branch you're currently working on. There's a couple of ways to fix this. One way is by using bare repositories, and the other way is by changing how the receive deny current branch setting is set. So let's go over here, and we'll go to git repo 2, and I'm going to make a change to this. I'm going to say git config, and for receive.deny current branch, I'm going to set that to update instead. And what this will do is if we are in a branch and there are no changes to this branch, it will simply let us push our changes over the ones that are already here. So it will enable us to overwrite the current commit status. So now when I go hit git push, you can see it accepted those changes. So what would happen if there were changes in here? Well, let's check that out. Let's make a new file. And then I'll go back to my working repo over on my Windows box. And let's just edit the test.txt file again. And I will commit my changes. If you do commit and you haven't staged a change, it will say your changes aren't staged. You have to run git add first. But if your files have already been previously added, there's a shortcut using the -a that will say commit everything I've changed that you already know about. Since it already knows about the test file, we can go ahead and use that to commit our changes. So some more change. That's great English right there. And let's go ahead and try to push that. And there we go. It's let us overwrite those changes. And we still have our test2.txt because it's not being tracked. So let's go ahead and add that. And we'll make another change to test.txt. And there we go. It's saying that we have failed to push some references. The problem is, if there are changes that are staged over here, it's not going to let us override that. So, did it make that change? No, it did not. So what we have to do is we have to commit this change here or discard it. So let's go ahead and git remove, and we can use -F to force that. And now we should be able to push that up to the repo. There we go, we've got our changes. So that's one way you can do things. The other way is by using what's called a bare repository. A bare repository is something that does not have a working copy. You can't make changes to it, but you can push things to it. So let's see how we would do that. Let's go over to our syseng server, and let's make a git bare repository. And what we do is we git init --bare. And you can see there's a lot of files in here, but there aren't any working files. If we run git status, we can see that this operation must be run in a working tree. We don't have one right now. So let's see if we can push this up to this branch instead. So to do that, we'll go over to our git repo 2, and we'll say we want to push this somewhere else. But it says there's no configured push destination. We haven't told it where we want to push things to. So let's make that change now. So we're going to do git remote add the name of it, which is going to be, I'll just use bare for now, but you can name it whatever you like. And the URL is going to be file/home syseng git bare. So now if we push, it'll still say, where do you want to push that to? Because the default for git push is to push to the origin. Since we don't have an origin here, we have to tell it where to do that. So it's still saying there's no upstream branch. We still need to make sure there's an upstream branch, so let's use its command, set upstream bare for master. So there we go. We now have a master branch in our git bare repository. So if we go to our git bare repository, we see, where's our file? It's in here, but you won't see it or be able to edit it in here. You'll have to do that in a working repository. So if we go back to our git repos in here, let's just go ahead and remove our git repo. And we'll do a git clone. So even though I use the same name, you can see this is not a bare repository. You can't clone a bare repository. You only clone working repositories. So let's go ahead and make some changes in here. I'll just edit the text file again. And I will commit my changes. And now I can git push. And you can see that even though there was a change, and we didn't do that git receive deny changes thing, it still works because we can always push commits to a bare repository. It's kind of like using it as a server, which is often what it's used for, but that's not technically accurate. It's just a different way of storing files. But it makes it very useful for having a centralized place to push and pull things from, and you'll always have the upstream being the origin with the bare repository, which is very useful in many situations. Alright, so that's the basics of git clone and git push. See you next time.